Hello everyone, I'd like to welcome you to our webinar. I'm Michael and Trevor Toll, the Marketing Manager for Solution Systems Inc. Today we have customers and others attending this webinar, so just a bit about Solution Systems before we begin. We are located in Rolling Meadows, Illinois, and we have been in business for 35 years providing software, IT infrastructure, and web development to organizations in the Chicagoland area, as well as Wisconsin, Indiana, and the Midwest region. We are a Gold Certified Microsoft partner. We sell, implement, and support an ERP software called Microsoft Dynamics NAV. NAV is a business accounting software that is geared toward manufacturers, distributors, and service companies. We also sell, implement, and support CRM as well as outsource IT services to our customers. Today we are very fortunate to have Rick Baxter with us from Cost Control Software, and he will be conducting this overview. So I'm going to pass it over to him so we can get started with that.
Not just jobs, but fixed asset time and non-productive time as well. All right, so let's look at what this thing does. So I've got a little wedge scanner here and my barcodes in front of me. So basically, for a clock in, the first thing somebody would do is just scan their badge, and we've actually done things like thumbprint scanners and swipe cards to get people in, but a barcode is the simplest way. So they basically scan their badge. I guess I got to be in my VM here so it actually scans. So we scan the badge, and it'll clock that person in, and it'll log their shift start at the bottom there. So that's their clock in for the day. So if you're doing time and attendance, basically somebody would do that in the morning. They clock in, and then they could walk away, and the terminal will lock after whatever you configured it to lock for. Or the person behind them can walk up and just scan their badge, and it'll just log them in. And if they want to actually lock it, they can just scan it again, and it'll lock the terminal. Okay, so that's kind of the clock in portion of it for the start of the day if they wanted to use the time and attendance. And there's a lot of value in the time and attendance portion as well. CEC is that? But at any rate, so now that's how you clock in for the day. Anytime, I guess I got to focus on the VM again. Move over to another screen. So as soon as they clock in, what happens is what they're seeing here is their time card. All right. So by default, this particular person is set up in the configuration in NAV, and I'll show you the NAV portion.
And Mark, I am not seeing their time card. I don't see. I mean, I see the headers, but I don't see any data in there.
That's right, because he's just clocked in for the day, and he hasn't recorded any time against anything yet.
Got it.
All right. So up here, this is the time card. This is all the activities he's got for the day. So when he needs to start working on an activity, he simply scans a barcode. And in this case, this was a production order I scanned. And what it will do is, that single barcode will bring in, the production order number, the production order line number, the operation, all of that sort of thing. Now, I know we're talking about jobs, so I'll switch to jobs in a sec, but a lot of these things you can change. So I could change the work center if I wanted here. So if they're using production, I could do that. And I can also change the activity type. So I'll show you this on the production order because I didn't set up any different activity types on the jobs. But let's say on this one, he's going to record some time, and it's due to rework. So somebody downstream from him screwed it up and had to bring it back for him to redo some of this forming work. So what he can do is he can go in and scan a different activity type, and now any time that he records against this will still be recorded to this production order, but with a different activity code, which means you can now do reporting on rework, like root cause of rework. In this case, it's coded to equipment. It could be coded to, the sales guy sold the wrong thing, so you have to rework it a little, those types of things. Okay, so anything on here, you can scan a barcode to adjust if you need to. Okay. Now, to record time, basically he'd scan a different activity, and it'll auto-calculate the time if you've got that set up. Or he could manually go in here, depending on his configuration, and just type in an hour. Right, so I would say it's about 50-50 right now. Some people do the clock on, clock off to calculate the time. Other people just allow their employees to enter the amount of time they've spent on the task. So either way is available. Now, over on the right, some various things here. So bill of material, the quality measures, these are the production order routing quality measures in NAV with some minor modifications for recording quality measures on production orders. And this is the piece, Rick, that we talked about that we could potentially integrate with your module. And then we've got work instructions, document links, and we can also show tooling if we need to on this for production orders primarily. Now, if it's a job, it's basically exactly the same. Let me just flip through my barcode sheets here and find a job to scan. Sorry, I got a pile of paper here. There we go. All right, so these are just the standard nav jobs. So if I scan a job task, same idea. I scan a single barcode, it brings up all the details for that particular task. We can scan at the task level or the planning line level, either way. I'm running actually on an old dev server, so it's got some goofiness here. But what it's doing is it's bringing in the bill of materials, and this is configurable what you want to bring in here. So right now it's bringing in resources and items, but it could just bring in items and things like that. So if you have these are the planning lines for this particular job task, but that's sort of configurable. You can decide what you want to show up in this particular window for the jobs.
Hey, Mark.
And yeah,
Mark, it's Rick. Let me ask a question here. You've
Sure.
mentioned scanning a single barcode. What? You're not scanning a barcode for the job and a barcode for the task number? You're scanning one barcode? How's that work?
One barcode. So let's go in here. I'll show you what it looks like. We've got some samples. These are, you customize this to whatever you want. But this is what sort of a simple traveler would look like. Right, so for this job here, the tasks, that's the barcode. They scan that one barcode and it'll reference, this task and this job. And then if you wanted to scan to the planning lines, we get the same effect. We have one barcode that represents, let's see, none of these are enabled actually to show in TCM, so they don't print the barcode for it. But basically, it would have a barcode that represents the planning line, the task, and the job. So just a single barcode.
Okay, I understand.
Now, from within here, we can do a few different things. We can, again, record time. We can change the activity type. So if we have different activities that we want to record, and then when we talk about jobs, that activity effectively maps to a work type. Once we post it to the job, within the time collection module, it'll have a specific activity type you can report on. But when we post it to the job, it can map to different work types. So we can basically scan different work types in here as well for the tasks that people are performing. And that's basically it. I mean, as I scan in, I can scan, different jobs. This one has an option to auto-calculate, so I can auto-calculate or manually enter time. I can mark that task as complete, basic stuff, right?
How about comments? Can I tag a comment to that?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can come up here, and because it runs in the browser, we can run this on a touch screen and all that. Normally, we don't have people using the mouse or the keyboard at all. So typical shop guys won't touch a mouse or a keyboard. It's not necessary. And even if they do need to go back and edit things, I can just use the arrow keys to move around to do things. But yes, they can add whatever comments they want to this as well.
And where
when you scan into the next job, is it clocking you out of the previous?
It is, yeah. So it auto-calculates the time and basically clocks you out. Now, on the production order side, we have some additional capabilities that we don't have on the job side, where we can do batching. And I mean, we could move it to the jobs, we just haven't yet. The reason it's not in the jobs is the job stuff is often used, more for service work. We haven't used it that much in the manufacturing side so far, but on the production orders, what we can do is we can do batching, auto splitting. So if you have a, a paint dip or something like that, or an oven where you're putting 20 orders in at the same time and running it for an hour, you could scan those 20 orders, and at the end, when you scan off the last order, it'll automatically spread that time out across those 20 production orders you've scanned in. So you can basically scan in a batch of orders and have the time get auto split across them all.
And do you control that split? So maybe you want that hour on all of them?
Yeah, you can. So you can do it proportionally, or you can just say the same time for everyone. Now, on a human's time card, like on a person's time card, we wouldn't do that. We would proportionally split it. But if you had a time card for a work center or a machine center, then you could apply that full hour to all those production orders.
Great.
Yeah. Okay. So now the other things you can do here. So the basic time card is that, right? It's a basic time card. As I mentioned, we can do things like non-productive time as well. So if I wanted to record time against sweeping, sorry, I guess I have to update this guy. I really should update my system here. I'm running on a very old version of this. But if I want to record time against non-productive activities like sweeping or anything like that, I can do that as well. And assets, I can, if you're doing asset inspection or asset maintenance, I can track time against assets as well through the system. And then all of this is just going into that user's time card in NAV. So if I clock out of this guy, oh, I clocked into somebody else. I'll show you this in a sec. But if I clock in back into this guy, it shows me a summary view of my time card, right? And again, without using the mouse, you can go back and review the details of each entry. But that's the summary. It sort of, compresses everything above it, so you can see a summary view of everything he's done, and then it highlights what he's currently working on. Now, the other option, instead of when I scan in, instead of seeing the time card, you can set up certain users to see a different view when they log in. So if I scan a different user at this point, this particular person is seeing the dispatch list instead of the time card to start. So she sees basically all the upcoming work, and you can sort it by date, start date, end date, whatever you want. And the value in this is they can sort of plan ahead of time what's going to go on in the shop floor, and they can assign work to themselves. So, for example, this particular person could say, you know what, I'm going to take that particular activity, and they can take it, and it'll add it to their personal dispatch list. Right? So what that allows you to do is sort of allocate the work across the various resources, and this works for production orders or jobs. So in that way, you can do some basic allocation on the shop floor if things are coming up. And where we see this is, if people have assembly stations where they're sitting at an assembly table, and they have a touch screen terminal or a mouse and a keyboard, they'll come into this, they'll look at what's coming up, they'll choose what they want to work on, and either take it to sort of plan it in the future, or from here they'll just click clock on without using a barcode and do it from the dispatch list. Okay. And then they'll switch back to the dispatch list when they're ready. So that's the dispatching side of it. The other thing I'll show you, like I said, I was just telling Rick yesterday, we haven't. So this is the basic front end. This will run, on the in the web browser on the shop floor. 90% of the data entry is going to be barcode scanning. So they'll scan, even from the dispatch list, I can scan a job task, and it'll start add it to my time card, and that's all they're going to do. If they have to add comments or do consumption or anything like that, they can do it. But generally, it's scan a barcode, go away, come back, scan a different barcode, and it calculates how long you spent on that particular
Say what you said on consumption. Can they record usage here as well of materials?
Yes, they can.
And is that going to hit then the job journal to record material usage?
Correct. So if I go in, we'll find a better one to use here. So this is a production order, of course, but jobs would be basically the same thing. I can come in here and specify, if it's lot or serial tracked, I can specify the lot number or serial number. I just go in and again specify my quantities in here and then register it. In the case of this, it's not actually posting, because if we posted, we'd need a full user. So this uses a limited user license, for each terminal out there. And our tables are part of the limited user license. So we have 7 or 8 tables in the limited user license range that can be written to. But anyway, all this does is dumps it into the consumption journal for somebody to post later. And similarly with the job journal, we just dump it into the job journal for later posting. If I hit register, it'll go in, it'll run through. I haven't run this in a while, so it'll spin up. It'll go through and register, and now that's on the consumption journal for posting.
Very nice.
Okay. Yeah, and on production orders, we also have the ability to do output as well. So we can come in and it adds it to the output journal. Now, what that looks like in Nav, this is actually a different database here, but what it looks like in Nav, after those time cards are in from the shop floor, then there's the approval. The next step would be supervisor approval. So you have your lead hand or your supervisor come in and approve the time cards. So they're going to get a list of all the time cards for the people they approve. So this would be, and because this is a test system, we got a whole bunch of junk in here. But so basically, this is going to be a list of everybody this particular user approves. And anything that's red here means there's an error on the time card. There's some exception. So you'll see on this first one, it lists out all the problems with this particular time card. Okay? And then down on the lines, it highlights where my actual issues are. So I can come into this, and then it gives me the specific issues on this particular line and turns them red so that it's easy to identify what needs to be adjusted. So the supervisor can come in here and actually, do the adjustments if they need to fix up the time cards, or if they're happy, they can just click approve, and it'll what I've got, incidentally, the reason this comes up is I'll show you in the setup. There's this filler time thing here at the bottom, so we can automatically top up their time cards to their shift. So if I say yes, it's just going to change this filler time and top it up to what it's supposed to be. But anyway, that's for the payroll side of things. But generally, if everything is good, they just hit approve, and it goes through and approves the time cards. So if people have been doing their jobs right and they've got no problems on their time cards, it's going to be a 5-minute job to do all the approvals for the people that work for them.
Is this using Nav's timesheets, or is this your own?
No, this is your own. So it doesn't use the timesheets at all.
Okay.
So what this looks like, if you want to look at the actual time cards, as I'm doing it on the shop floor, again, different database, but as I'm doing it on the shop floor, it's building up one of these time cards in Nav. So here's one. It's basically empty, but let's find one that's got some data on it. So these guys, anything with a number like this is for a stress test. We run 1,000 users through it every night to stress test it. But and it's all exactly the same entry each time. But this is what the time card looks like in Nav. So you could actually come in here and do all your time entry directly in Nav. So in this particular case, it's a document type of job, the task number. This is the planning line. If I wanted to record time against the specific planning line, I could, and the time. That's basically it. So you can enter it in nav or not. A couple other little things. We've got the ability to record expenses. It works with jobs. So if there are sort of out-of-pocket expenses, like the guy's going to site, used his credit card, all that sort of thing, we can actually do expense capture. This employee is almost certainly not set up for that, but let's see. Maybe this guy is. Okay, I'll show you how you can set that up. But basically, you assign this particular employee a vendor number and allow him to record expenses, and he can go in and enter expenses in the system as well. So it's kind of a, it's not really time collection, but it's kind of a nice little addition because you can, for the people that do need to do that, especially field service guys that have to run out and buy a spare part while they're out in the field, that's kind of a handy tool. Now, let's see here. The other thing, since I just talked about the expenses and sort of an additional capability, there's also an HSE capability. So we can go in there and record incidents. So pretty much anything you want to define, right? So first aids or hazard assessments or any of those types of things, we can record within the system and link to those same employees. And this is kind of nice, right? Any, an oil spill or an injury or any of that kind of stuff, it has sort of all the required fields for tracking those sorts of incidents. So that if there is an investigation or a government claim or anything like that, all the record keeping is done within the same system.
Is this all one product, or are these several different modules you can add to it?
Well, we used to sell the safety logbook separately, and I still could, but generally we're just, it's all in one, right? So you get the MES package, this is the time collection MES is the version we're looking at, and you basically just get all of that stuff.
Okay.
Let me just show you actually on the employees. There's a couple things there. Let's go to the last guy here. So on the employees, a couple of things on the setup. This is again where we set up whether they can record expenses or not. When we set it up, we can do it in a few different ways. So we could just have it blank. In other words, it doesn't link to anything that's already in nav. If you're doing it with jobs, you're going to link it to a resource because we want to post that resource on the job journal. But we can link it to the nav employees as well, and then the employee could be linked to the resource, and then we grab the resource of the employee record. But this allows us to either create it as an employee, a resource, a work center, or a machine center. And once this TCM employee is defined, we can basically record time against that particular employee. So we can have record time against unattended machine runtime and things like that. And then there's a bunch of other things like for the payroll side of things that we set up, but I'll show you the payroll stuff here in a sec. Not sure there's much else. I mean, I could show you some of the things, some of the other setup that we do in here for the system, if you're interested. Oh, one last thing on this is again also the approval structure. So who this person manages or who he reports to, you would set up in here as well. And then that defines with the supervisor when they come in to do approvals or anything like that, who they're actually supposed to approve and who they see. And then there's a little org chart report that you can print to actually see the detail, and it's just not set up right. Like I said, this is our test system where we've got 1,000 employees set up that just spin every night.
Now, this is working with standard jobs.
Yes.
So with Rick and Ben and their job manager, we don't perceive or expect any issues with that working together.
No, we've actually implemented the production essentials, so the cheap version once before. For company name was Engineering Unlimited. I'm not sure they're live yet. I think they upgraded it mid implementation to R2, but yeah, it was no issue. We you know, we didn't have to change anything. It just worked.
Love to hear that.
Yeah.